As the old adage goes, what gets measured gets improved. So let's talk about how you can use Nifty's reporting to build the ideal report to improve your workflow. So we're on the dashboard screen of our project. If you don't see your dashboard screen, be sure to turn it on through your Customize Modules button. Next, we're going to add a widget and select Report Widget. Before we build our first graph, I want to talk about the 3 data sets that Nifty offers: activity data, historical data, and live data. Live data is as it sounds. What's the data look like at this moment in time? So this is great for high velocity projects. Things like, what are the current distribution of tasks across statuses or by assignee? This is going to give us insights as they exist at this moment. Historical data is going to give us a collection of snapshots taken at the end of each day throughout the course of our project. This is going to accrue data as time goes on. So for example, how many tasks have we completed? Well, if I complete 3 tasks on Monday and none for the rest of the week, every day that week will say 3, because at the end of each day, we still had 3 tasks completed. Now, if we want to take a report of each day over a given date range, that would be activity data. This is going to give us insights like how much time did we track each day? How many tasks did we complete each day? So this is great for high velocity workflows if you want to report on them in the past. Whereas historical data is going to give us more of an accruing data set to see how our performance is over the course of our project. But let's start with live data. Now, each of our data sets offers a certain array of graphs. So for example, you're not going to have a line chart in our live data. It's one day, today's the data point. So we're going to offer certain graphs as they pertain to those data sets. So today we're going to build a pie chart. And we're going to create a chart that shows us the distribution of tasks across the different statuses of our project at this time. So first we're going to say, what are our tasks in our to-do status? So I'm going to start by selecting open tasks. Down here is a series. This is where we're telling Nifty to report on a certain swath of our data. So I'm saying open tasks, and I want to filter this by the status to do. I'm going to name it to do, and let's give it a color, blue. Okay. Now we see this aggregate button. Aggregate is telling us what about this task do we want to track? Count is, as it sounds, the amount of tasks. There are other aggregations we can do as well, such as the amount of story points or the amount of track time. If you're using custom fields with value, you can use those custom fields as well. So if you're using Nifty as a CRM, for example, with certain deal value, we can attribute the value inserted onto those custom fields as our aggregation source. I would recommend that you check out our help article as it breaks out all the different aggregation options across our different data sets. But for today, we're going to stick to count. So right now I have my to-do data series. I am pulling all open tasks in the to-do status. Next, I want to add a series for in progress. So open tasks, filter by status, in progress. I'm going to give it a name, progress, and I'm going to change the color again to orange. Lastly, I want to do open tasks, filter by status, in review. I don't happen to have any tasks in review, so it didn't impact our pie chart. We can see how this data is changing in real time as we are adding these different series. So I could even add, for example, if I want to see how many are complete, maybe to finish the picture here, if I want to have, in that case, I would say completed tasks. And now I'm getting a picture at this moment of time of the distribution of tasks across all of the statuses in my project. If I'm happy with my chart, I'm going to give it a name at the very top. I'm going to say tasks by status. And you can even say something like at this moment if you want to be absolutely clear about that. And we're going to save it. Now we'll see this widget down here at the bottom of our dashboard. We can go ahead and drag and drop to replace where we want this in our dashboard as well. And I can expand it. So if I want to have this take up a little bit more space, maybe a little bit more applicable for line graphs and things like that. If I want to edit this chart, I can go in and jump in with the edit chart button. And I can always download this chart as a PNG if I want to create an external report. Okay, so we just built our first chart. It was a pie chart, and it was pulling based off live data, that is, data as it exists at this moment in our project. Next, we are going to use our historical data set to create a graph. Now, just a reminder, historical data is a collection of snapshot reports over the given period of time that we're inserting for our report. This is not per day reporting, this is an aggregation of that report. So we'll see what we mean in a minute. I'm going to use a stacked area chart. And so for our first resource, we're going to use completed tasks. Not bad, but since this is a stacked area chart, it's lacking a little bit of context. So we're going to add a whole new series. But before we do, first let's talk about including subtasks. You can include subtasks in some of your reports inside of Nifty. This is based on a few things. First, are you using subtasks? If there are no subtasks in the project, include subtasks won't appear, so you won't need to worry about it. Also, there are different aggregations and data information that we're pulling that the metadata just doesn't apply to subtasks. So in those instances, you'll see this option grayed out. So when it's alive from a color standpoint, you see I can tick this box on and off. That means it applies to this data set and you have subtasks within this project. Okay, next. So let's add our second series. And I'm going to add open tasks. All right. With a stacked chart, as I add more series, those series will be added on top. And the way to read these charts are, we have the total number is the sum of all of our different data series. So in this case, we can see that there are 34 total tasks. As of August 26th, 35 total tasks. As of August 26th, we have 3 completed and 32 open tasks. The way this chart is built, as I complete more tasks, this green will creep up and eat up more of that area of purple until eventually it's all the way at the top. And so I'm kind of seeing this as like a progress bar moving up, this being the upper limit, this being everything, and this being what's done. And so I'm reading this as what's remaining, thus our open tasks. So this is a great way to use our stacked, as it gives us kind of context as what our total is, and then the distribution of the data set within it. And you could add more data sets if it's appropriate for what you're reporting on, so you can see how this splits out even more. It might widen in some cases, other cases it might collapse and get nearer like it would in this one. So I have a historical chart. I'm going to say this is open versus completed tasks. And sometimes I like to say like over time. That way I just know I'm reminding myself what kind of data set this is. You can even put the data set name in there. Of course, you can always reference it by editing that chart. So we'll save the chart. And there we have it right here in our project. Maybe more appropriate to expand this chart compared to the pie chart, as we'll see how this gets a lot more impressive over a given period of time. All right, so we've built our live data pie chart and our historical data stacked area chart. Last is to work with our activity data. This is what goes on within the context of every day. Great for high velocity workflows, the biggest bank of material to pull from as far as data sets. So for this example, we are going to do a bar chart, and we're going to give this a few data series. First, we're going to start with the big pictures here. We're just trying to understand how many tasks are in each status every day, are being moved into each status. We're trying to understand just kind of the story of our task journeys on a daily basis, right? So let's start with saying we want to have task status updated, and we are going to say to do. So how many tasks were moved into to do? Now, we're not seeing a lot of data in to do. That's because the tasks are starting out in to do. So they're not being moved into to do. But if we were to say like in progress, now we're going to see a lot more data, right? So that's something to keep in mind when you are looking at these charts, is that it can only give you data based on things that are actually happening. So if everything starts there, you're not going to see that movement tracked. So let's add a new series for, and you can see, for example, in this data set, these are all really action oriented, right? Like status updated, time tracked. If you want to do how much time do I track every day on a task, this is what we're looking at as far as the data series. This would be our activity data. So status updated, and let's get a higher contrast color here. It's like midnight blue, and we're going to say our value here is in review. So now we can see how many are in review. And then lastly, if we want to round this out, you can see when there's the weekend here, right? We could say what's been completed. I usually like to do green for completed. So let's go ahead and change this color to a orange. Okay. So completed, I'm going to say how many tasks were completed. So now I can see just the big picture over this given period of time. Task status update by day. And this is by day. Every day, this is what happened. So on this day, there was 3. Now, again, if we were to compare this to our historical, this 3 would be static because it's taking a snapshot at the end of every day. So if we say a task moves in from to do into in progress and then into in review in the same day, both of those data points will show up here in our activity data. If we were using our historical data set, it's just going to pick up where that task ended the day. It's a snapshot at the end of the day. So that would only take that task as in review. It's seeing where did we end on that workflow, where this is telling us more the daily journey on a per day basis. So now we can save this chart and add this to our dashboard as well. Hopefully you've gotten some sense of how to build these charts in Nifty, what the different data sets are pulling from, and how you can maximize what your different parameters are to see the information you want to see inside of Nifty.